I was 16 years old. It was Christmas Eve. I was in a bad part of town in just a shack of a house,
Mm,
and I was just sitting there by myself. The kind of unstable roommates I had were out drinking and doing drugs again,
mm,
and no family around, no friends, no Christmas tree, no presents, no big Christmas Eve feast with the lights and the all the beautiful things. Nothing. And I
mm,
just sat there. It was so cold, and I could see my breath in the air. And I just sat there and just felt the emptiness and the loneliness. It's like this shouldn't be. Nobody should have to experience this.
mm.
This is terrible. And it was a hard night, but also a beautiful night. I ended up, spending some time reading the scriptures and praying and just felt embraced by God. But that night was so pivotal for me because I was like, I'm not doing this to my kids. Like that
Mm,
moment, and I still bank on that. That moment was, solidified my commitment to become the caliber of man I
mhm.
needed to be so my kids never experienced anything even close to that.
Yeah,
So it was the pain of that moment where there's pain, there's power. It was
yeah.
the pain of that moment that led me to stop the generational problems that were being passed down.
Hi, you're listening to Java with Jen with your host, Jenilee Samuel. On this show, I bring the simplicity of hearing God's voice into everyday life in a no-nonsense, authentic, and super practical way. With coffee in hand and real life in our faces, let's do this.
Hey, friend. Quick, exciting update. So there's a 2-week break coming up the last 2 weeks of August, but it's because I am leveling up the podcast. For season 8, I am redoing my studio so my videos are more locked in, and I'm getting guests who have been my own heroes of the faith. So we are going to be having a good time. And I'm also updating the show's tagline to reflect what the space is actually really about, which is hearing God's voice for a spirit-led life. Yes, that is what we are after. So season 8 drops the week of September 1st, and I want to launch it super strong. So we've been sitting, and this is a personal goal of mine, we've been sitting in the top 1% globally of podcasts for 2 years now. And I am literally 1 inch away from being in the top 0.5%, but I totally need your help to get there. So if you can help me, here's the mantra: share, review, listen through. Okay? Share, review, listen through. If you can share episodes with your friends and on social media, that helps it reach more people. If you leave a review on Apple or Spotify, it tells the algorithms that this is a popular show, which drives up my global rankings. And then if you listen all the way through to the end of the episodes, and I promise I'll include some shorter ones, then that also tells the algorithms that this is a really well-loved podcast. So if you can do those things, share on social media with your friends, review on Apple or Spotify, and listen through to the end of the episodes, then we are going to be taking over global rankings with Java with Jen podcast. I will be shouting out those of you who are helping spread the word, and I will choose 3 to 5 people to send a surprise gift. Might be Starbucks on me, might be an Amazon treat, or something fun in the mail. So help your girl out. Let's hit that top 0.5% together and launch season 8 strong. Share, review, listen through, and let's take over the podcast world.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for coming back here to another episode at Java with Jen. I have a new guest with me, Mr. Greg Denning. I was excited when I met you because from our pre-interview, I shared with you even a little tiny glimpse into a conflict my husband and I had the night before, and your response was to laugh because it was so classic to the
Yeah.
female-male dynamic. And so I wanted to talk to you about this statistic or this truth that I've recently discovered, that the number one key in your child's success in life is how he sees his father love his mother. Not that that totally surprises me, but at the same time, it totally surprises me. Can you
Right.
speak to that and like how this even got on your radar in the first place?
Yeah. Well, so it came up on my radar because I experienced it. It was my own, pain and problem. My parents divorced early on. Stepdads came and went, several of them. And I ended up just leaving home at 16. I'm like, oh man, I'm
Mm.
out. And it was in my own loneliness, just that this deep desperation as a 16-year-old. I'm like, I want to have an awesome marriage and an awesome family. And so
Mm.
I had experienced the pain and the hurt of watching my parents fight in divorce and then stepdads come and go and just the destruction. Then I was living in rough areas and I saw the domestic violence and the destroyed families. I thought this has got to stop.
Mm.
But if we step back, this is really cool because when you stop to think about it, it's like, okay, what does a child see? And they're absorbing tons. They couldn't articulate it as little ones, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, up to 7. What are they seeing? What are they learning by watching their parents interact? Well, it's like, is the world a safe place or is it a dangerous place?
Mm.
What is respect? What is love? How do I get along with people? What do I do when I'm upset? How
Mm.
do I handle disappointment? How do I handle failure? How do I handle disagreement? How do I engage with people, in conversation or in conflict?
Mm.
Right. And so the kids are absorbing all of this.
Wow.
And they're what science says, all the research shows is really by the age of 7, they have formed a massive part of their mental framework for life and their worldview.
Which is
Right.
terrifying to me.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You're like, wow, what have they taken in?
Yeah.
But they're seeing it all. They're absorbing all of it. And it's like, oh, it makes sense. So if they're watching and they're like, man, dad's just angry often,
Mhm.
losing his temper, so to speak, and blowing up, yelling, reacting, slamming doors, running off when things get hard, disconnecting, disengaging, getting on his phone. The kid's taking that all in
Mhm.
and absorbing it subconsciously, and then later on in life will act it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And kids operate what's called imitation without regulation.
Mm.
So later on they'll imitate, but without regulation, and so
It's
it could be
extreme.
extreme.
Wow.
And so when you step back and think, you're like, oh man, they're watching and absorbing everything and mimicking it all. No wonder.
Mm.
No wonder it's so powerful that if we show them how to do life in the home,
Yeah.
we're actually setting them up for great success and real happiness.
Yeah. Wow. So let me tell my listeners just a little bit about you. Greg is a family lifestyle and business consultant and a creator of the Formidable Family Man Tribe, where he helps men master their fitness, family, and finances, all very important aspects of being a man, right? He and his wife, Rachel, have been married for 24 years. They have 7 children and have traveled to over 60 countries. That's incredible. They've built a multiple 6-figure location independent business, meaning they get to work online, and currently live in Europe. After overcoming a difficult childhood, Greg dedicated himself to personal growth and has since created what we would call the life of his dreams. So can you tell me maybe even from a because I honestly I was thinking about this yesterday. I drove through a really poor part of town, and as I was driving through the street, there was people everywhere, and they looked like they were just barely surviving. It was honestly really heartbreaking to drive through, and it was like I could feel the desperation around me and that survivor mindset all around me, and it just got me to thinking like God frequently asks us to give to the poor and to help the needy, and how so much of what God asks us to do in scripture is actually about pulling people out of their desperate survival place
Yes.
into overcoming and into healthier living, because the kingdom of God is a place of abundance and overcoming, right? And so can you speak to why is it so important that we address, and even maybe how do those broken places show up in our adulthood in marriage? I'm trying to streamline my question here.
Let me jump in because I think I know where you're going, and it's super powerful. Because the goal is, we can help people kind of out of the slums, or we can get the quote slums out of the people, and we can
Yeah.
do the inner healing, and we can draw weakness or wounds or pain or frustration or unhealed things out, the issues. We can get the issues out, and then people transform their own lives, right? So
Hmm.
it's the inner work.
Yeah.
So if we do the inner work first, then all the outer work starts to change and transform. And that kind of leads to your question is like, well, how's it showing up later in life?
Hmm.
And it shows up every day. You see it, I see it. We interact with people, and you talk to people, and they're like, well, yeah, this happened to me when I was a child.
Hmm.
They feel A lot of people, and this one breaks my heart. A lot of people feel like they're not lovable.
Yeah.
Like that one, makes me want to cry. They feel like they're not lovable.
Mm.
And very often it's because their parents were struggling
Yeah.
and we're saying things and doing things. And so it's like, it must be my fault, or I'm broken, I'm hurt. And they have these wounds and they take the wound with them. And so then their life is this reaction to pain. So,
Mm.
so let's say, for example, you have an open wound
Mhm.
and it's really sensitive,
Yeah.
right? You're going to go through your whole life interacting with people and you're going to be protecting that. So
Yeah.
subconsciously, you're going to be turning to the side and you're going to be like, hey, stay away from me, or don't come over here. And
Mm.
people are like, what's going on? Why is she reacting like that to those situations? Or why is she behaving this way? It's so different when you're just trying to protect pain.
Mhm.
And man, that shows up in every aspect of life. And it's so sad. But it can be healed.
Yeah, it can be. And I think that and maybe dive deeper into this, when kids grow up in an environment where pain rules the behavior, and behavior is primarily from pain response, then does it not just duplicate itself where they learn how to function from a place of basic survival
Yep.
and pain protection rather than from a place of peace and love and thriving?
Exactly. Yeah, you nailed it. You articulated that really well. So we get into a survival mindset, right?
Mhm.
And we're just like, I just have to make it through the day. I just have to protect
Yeah.
myself and not be taken advantage of. So as a teen, I felt like I'd been betrayed by my parents, by stepdads, then other bad experiences. And the pain of betrayal is the worst. And this is very relevant for couples,
Mhm.
whether it's, obviously in adultery, but even in emotional adultery or just abandonment. That sense of betrayal is the most painful thing we can experience. And so I'd felt betrayed, and so in my lack of understanding and my immaturity as a teen, I thought, well, the only way to protect myself is to build up my walls around my heart.
Mhm.
Like I'm not going to let people in anymore. I'm going to keep people out. And so I built up my walls, but what had I done inadvertently? I created my own solitary confinement.
Mhm.
And there was nothing worse than the loneliness. It
Yeah.
is brutal. And so eventually I realized I got to tear down those walls and I got to heal and set up boundaries so that I can let people into my life again, so that I can love and not be just operating from a place of fear and scarcity and survival mode, like you explained so well. And then when we can open up our hearts and have healthy boundaries, then we're in a place of peace and love and joy. And I can give and I can show up and fully be
Yeah.
the best version of me.
Yeah. So I can hear people kind of like I mentioned this to a sister or a friend the other day where I was like, now that I'm an adult, it feels like the majority of adulthood is just recovering from your childhood. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like, there's so much energy that goes into the older that we get, the more complicated life feels because you're like, oh, okay, that was from when I was 7, and so it feels like our adulthood is just spent recovering from our childhood. So when that's the case, it can make one feel like, what is the point of even trying if we all just are a combination of traumas?
Yeah.
And do our kids even have a chance? You know what I mean? Like, is there even a hope that they can grow up in a healthy home? What would you say to people that feel like, A, maybe their childhood was so traumatizing and they feel like they put so much energy into dealing with their own baggage? They're like, what hope do my kids have? And what would you say to people in that place who want to do better? Maybe their kids are almost teenagers, maybe they're already out of the house. What would you say to people that are like, what's the point of trying at this point?
Yeah. This is one of, honestly, and I mean this sincerely, this is one of the most exciting things that exist, is
Mm.
that I can be the break in a generational chain of pain
Mm.
and trauma, that I can stop it. I can heal, I can hold it back and not pass it to my kids.
Yeah.
Like that, think about that. If it's just been passed down from generation to generation of some habit, some parenting thing, some painful thing, and I just say, you know what? I'm stopping that, and I'm gonna pass on something else to my kids, something better.
Mm.
I'm not gonna keep perpetuating this problem. And if I do the inner work to heal, which I did, so I'm speaking from personal experience,
Mhm.
I was able to heal all that, so I don't have to pass on any of it to my kids.
Mm.
None of it. Actually, may I tell another quick story?
Yeah.
So I was 16 years old, It was Christmas Eve. I was in a bad part of town in just a shack of a house,
Mm,
and I was just sitting there by myself. The kind of unstable roommates I had were out drinking and doing drugs again,
mm,
and no family around, no friends, no Christmas tree, no presents, no big Christmas Eve feast with the lights and the all the beautiful things, nothing. And I
mm,
just sat there. It was so cold, and I could see my breath in the air. And I just sat there and just felt the emptiness and the loneliness. It's like this shouldn't be. Nobody should have to experience this.
mm,
This is terrible. And it was a hard night, but also a beautiful night. I ended up, spending some time reading the scriptures and praying and just felt embraced by God. But that night was so pivotal for me because I was like, I'm not doing this to my kids. Like
mm,
that moment, and I still bank on that. That moment was, solidified my commitment to become the caliber of man I
mhm.
needed to be so my kids never experienced anything even close to that.
Yeah.
So it was the pain of that moment where there's pain, there's power. It was
Yeah.
the pain of that moment that led me to stop the generational problems that were being passed down.
Yeah. So I've lived a life long enough to know we can set goals and have ambitions, and yet we still have to walk a really messy path usually.
Mhm.
Usually it's messier than we anticipated because we're like, but this was not supposed to happen this way. My kids should never experience this. So was it a smooth where your kids never had you, or did they have to watch the process? Because it's like, is perfection the goal to raise healthy kids? I feel like that's a little unattainable, right, for most
Right?
people.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah.
so, what was your actual journey? Like, what did your kids actually experience? Did you just have to walk through the mess in front of them? And is that part of the beautiful inheritance?
Yeah, absolutely. So perfection is not the goal at all. I would say presence is the
Mm,
goal,
mm,
modeling. And so, yeah, do we kind of mess it up and it's kind of messy 100%.
mhm,
But is if we're really striving, I mean, really truly striving, sometimes we say, well, I'm trying or I'm doing my best when really we're not even
mhm.
close to our best. We're just kind of throwing that out there and like,
It's an
I'd rather
excuse.
play around and watch more Netflix or, whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm really truly trying. And your kids see that, they love it and they respect you and they see how to grow and change.
Mm,
And and they watch that so that you do the work on yourself. So here's what I teach now. It's like work harder on yourself than you do on anything else. And
yeah.
I live by that. Like I'm because the best thing I can do for my family is make the most of myself.
Mhm,
I will say this. This was an absolute game changer. I had a raging, horrible temper. It
mm,
was bad. Like I would get in fights and scream and yell. This is when I was in my teens and 20s.
mhm,
It was ridiculous.
mm,
And one day I just kind of realized I'm like, man, this will absolutely ruin my family.
mm,
I have to end this. And so luckily, right just shortly before I met Rachel, I just ended it. Like I'm
yeah.
done. I'm done being upset. I'm done blowing a gasket. I'm done getting angry at whatever. I'm done. And that one choice to stop getting so angry changed everything for our entire family dynamic, family culture, family legacy.
Mhm,
And so it's picking something like that I knew would be a wrecking ball in our relationships and saying, I'm done with that
yeah.
and remove it from my life.
So how did you go into that? Because I feel like, and hopefully we have some men listening to this episode because of the title of it, that how they love their wives is key to the success of their children's lives. How did you just turn that off? Because I know my husband also, and I feel like a lot of men, women cry to release our emotions, but men get angry typically.
Yeah.
And so, how did you just turn that off? Because I feel like for some men, they've been trying to turn it off for years and just don't know what to do with the energy, the anger. They don't know where to place it or put it.
Yeah. Yes. Good. Great question. So the first thing to me, it was actually a sermon. I read this sermon and the preacher just said, hey, look, he's like, nobody can make you mad. It's like
Mm,
they'll use those words as excuses, like, "Oh, she made me mad," or "He made me feel like that." He's like, "That's not true." And
mhm,
you don't lose your temper. You choose to get angry. He's like, "You own this." And for me, at first time, I was like, mind blown. Like, are you? Wait, what? So if that guy does that, I don't have to get upset. Like, this is crazy. And that awareness was empowering. And so then this was actually a very spiritual thing for me. I remember I kneeling down. I remember in my little apartment building. just pleading. I'm like, God, I'm done.
Mm.
Take this from me. I don't want to be raging angry anymore. And it's just destroying my life. This isn't who I want to be.
Yeah.
The very next morning I walked outside and somebody had shattered my car window and stolen my car stereo.
Help it.
And I was like, "Oh, this is the test, isn't it? This is the test." But I remembered my commitment, and I'm like, "I'm
Mhm.
not gonna get upset. I don't whatever. It's a window and a radio. I don't care."
Mhm.
And I kept my commitment, and that started the change. Then a week later, they broke the other window, and the new stereo stole that, and I was like, "Okay, I've learned. I'm good." And it was just this commitment to my future family. Is like, I
Mm.
don't wanna be there anymore. And so where do I get my steam out?
Mhm.
I do it through lifting weights, through martial arts, through, big, fun, adventurous things. It's
Mhm.
like have these natural built-in outlets
Mhm.
so that I'm not taking it out on my wife or my children.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And anger is a big one that I think men particular, I mean women do too, but I think men specifically have to deal with anger in a way that's unique to
Yep,
men.
yep.
Um but I know when you and I had talked previously, we talked about a very specific dynamic that also shows up that I think can sabotage men in the home and the marriage in the home that is also a common pattern. And guys, we're not all just putting blame on men here today. But I want to talk about these things because I have seen my husband deal with them. I have 4 boys, and I want to help empower them to have
Yes.
success in these areas. And so a friend of mine says, the Holy Spirit told her, you cannot conquer what you do not confront. And so
Ooh,
we are simply confronting so that we can conquer. And so there's a dynamic where and maybe defensiveness is like a lower level of anger. Maybe it's something different. You can tell me your thoughts, but I think there's a dynamic many times where women, wives, will come to their husbands and be trying to talk out their feelings, express about their day, maybe share how they got hurt, maybe share about, I don't know, anything. But the men could hear it in a different way that then triggers defensiveness, which then breaks the relationship and creates more conflict. So, can you speak to that for the men who are listening who are like, yes, this is our pattern and I'd like to change it, but I don't know how to change this?
yes, yes, yes. Oh, you nailed this one.
Okay.
You couldn't have brought up a better one. And this comes up all the time. It came up today in a coaching session I had with this wonderful couple.
Mm,
This is one of the most common dynamics that I see all the time. And it's what I love to tell couples is like, you guys, you're so close, you're just barely missing each other
mhm,
because you're speaking a little bit different language and you're seeing things just a little bit off. And if you understand what's happening, then you can be united, like fully united instead of in conflict or just missing each other. So most women, I'm going to generalize a little bit here, but
sure.
most women, they process out loud
Mm,
and they want to do it through words and they want to connect emotionally through talking. Right.
mhm. Yeah.
So they want to talk to their husband. They're like, I'm just going to tell you all the things I'm thinking about. They're just on my mind. And
Uh-huh.
I'm just going to talk through it and say it all this. So men usually don't do that.
Mhm,
Men kind of think quietly. They go to their office or cave or their little spot and they're thinking about it. And then when they say something they've thought about it a while.
mhm.
So then for them to sit there and their wives are just kind of spewing all this stuff, it sounds a lot like complaining.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like I'm being attacked. It's like, "Oh, well, that's me. I have to do better. Oh, I'll fix that." And men want to be fixers.
Mhm,
And men have this deep need to feel respected. So if she's like, "Well, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong," he's going to start taking that all personally.
mhm,
It's like, "Oh man, me." And so they start getting really defensive. They start getting upset and they either storm off or get defensive right back or get angry.
mhm,
And so the dynamic you described is just perfect. What I tell men is like, hold on, wait a minute. She just needs you to listen. Like, just listen. You don't
uh-huh,
have to fix it. You don't have to take it personal. You don't have to get defensive. Like, let her process out loud.
uh-huh.
Just kind of either, I don't know, vomit it out. You feel better after vomiting, or the pressure builds up and there's a little volcano or whatever metaphor you want to use, or there's a big storm in the ocean. And I was like, brother, you have to be the lighthouse. Be the lighthouse that can handle the wind and the waves and the storms. And you're there, present, just listening to her, staying engaged.
Mhm,
And then she feels better. She feels connected emotionally. She feels like I got it all out.
mhm,
And he doesn't have to respond. He doesn't have to just take it personal or anything. You just listen to her.
Mhm.
And then afterwards, they feel connected. And so what I see guys doing, and maybe you can relate to this or seen it, or I know the people listening can relate to this. Men either want to check out. They're like, "Oh man, here we
Yeah.
go. Here she goes again. She's talking. I'm out of here."
Uh-huh.
Or they disengage. They get on their phone.
Mhm.
I heard one story. The guy would lay down on his bed, put the pillow over his face, and say, "Okay, go ahead, start talking."
So
I
sad.
so sad. Other men would go in there and they just turn their back over and they're like, "Okay, go ahead, I'm listening."
Oh.
They're just totally disengaged, right? So she feels abandoned, she doesn't feel important, she doesn't feel cherished, she's like, "He can't even listen to me,"
Mhm.
or when I'm upset about something, he can't handle it,
Mhm.
and it's just this misunderstanding. So what I coach men to do now is, like, instead of retreating, which is what you feel like you wanna do, actually lean in,
Mhm.
like, stay right there with her.
Yeah.
So when my wife's upset and she's venting, I like to hold her hand.
Mm.
And just, like, get over close to her, hold her hand, get close, and just let her cry or vent or say what she needs to say, and all I'm doing is listening,
Mhm. How do you
right?
how
Just
do you bypass those internal instincts to get defensive to the things she's saying? Because when you
Ooh,
listen well, then all you're processing what she's saying, and it can trigger at least that's my experience with my husband, and so it's like, I feel like I have to choose my words so carefully to
right.
try to make sure I'm not saying anything in a way that he could personalize, but it feels
Yes.
like walking through a
Yes.
landmine, like it's impossible, you know?
Exactly, right, and so you're not feeling like you can get it all out and just say what you're feeling,
Yeah.
and so what I tell guys is I'm like, "Hold up, she's speaking from her emotions.
Mhm.
She's speaking what she's feeling." So it's not always 100% accurate. And
Mhm.
it's not like, because guys like, "When I say it, I mean it." Sometimes women, when they're feeling emotional, they say it, and then afterwards, like, "I didn't really mean it, but that's what I was feeling in the moment." You're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, good." So what I did with Rachel is I'm like, "Oh, I'm not gonna take everything at face value. I'm not gonna take everything she says literally,
Mhm.
because she's venting it. She just needs to process out loud."
Yeah.
Where a lot of men don't do that. We don't think out loud. And so
Yeah.
she's thinking, processing, and she'll say something, and then later she's like, "Actually, no, that's not what I meant." I was like, "Boom, I'm glad I didn't hold on to that."
Yeah.
So the way I got past it, and again, it took some work. It took
Uh-huh.
a lot of work, and my wife reminding me like, "Hey, remember, you're just listening here.
Mhm.
You're not correcting, you're not fixing. I'm not talking about you." So then I let her say it all, just get it all out. And then once she calms down and everything's clear, I'm like, "Okay, there was a couple points to, what do you want me to do about those?"
Mhm.
And she's like, "Actually, I'll take care of it. Thank you for listening. It's not
Mhm.
that big of a deal. I was just feeling a lot of emotion." Or she'll say something like, "Yeah, this one for me is non-negotiable. Like,
Mm.
it needs to change."
Yeah.
I said, "Great, let's come up with a plan together how that changes."
Yeah.
But if we can just, as men, if we can just sit and listen without taking it personal, game changer. That is the
Yeah.
beginning of a big transformation.
That's so good. I often tell my husband when we've gotten into those moments and we're like processing the conflict that didn't need to happen, and I'll tell him, I'm like, babe, what I really needed you to do is one, I tell him, I need you to lean in, not lean away from me. So exactly what you
Yes.
said. But then I tell him, I'm like, I need you to realize it's not you versus me. If
Yes.
there's a problem, it's you and me versus the problem. I need you to
Yes.
try to meet me in the middle where we can tackle the problem and not become enemies in the
Yep.
process. And so, how can we as wives and women, is there certain like keywords we should like stay away from in general? Because I think men sometimes feel disrespected by things we say or things we do or whatever.
Mhm.
But because we don't think like that, that's the furthest thing from our intention.
Right.
And so, is there any hacks you can give the ladies who are listening for this?
Yeah, so and thank you for pointing that out. It's so good. Like, husbands, it's internal too. We're just hardwired to want to be respected, and so men will be hypersensitive, like extra sensitive to the words our wives say. So I will say that, like, ladies, your husband's, like, a good man, like, his very existence is tied to making his wife happy
Why
and
is that?
providing for her.
Why
Like,
why
we're
why
just
do men want to make their wives happy? I've noticed this. It seems like a total thing.
It's like, I think God created us this way.
Hmm.
I really do. I think it's divine imprinting. Like, we're just born to be drawn to each other. And so a wife's words to a husband who loves his wife, her words carry massive weight.
Mm.
And he's built to want to please her and earn her love and admiration and respect and provide for her and protect her. Now he might go about it in ways that she doesn't like, right? He's like, but I'm doing this, this, and this. And she's like, I want you to do this. I
Yeah.
want you to be present and connect with me emotionally.
Yeah.
And like he's like, but I'm doing the lawn. She's like, I don't care about the lawn. So he's doing the things he thinks he can because he wants to please her that way.
Uh-huh.
So then what she can do is like, I think one of the biggest returns from wives is thanking him for what he does, the hard work he does.
Mm.
Um, Acknowledging it. Just well, it's this. It goes both ways, right?
Mhm.
Wives want to be acknowledged. They want to feel seen and
Mhm.
heard and validated and appreciated. Men more want to be appreciated and respected.
Mhm.
Like, oh, that's so it's so manly when you do that. It's so attractive. I love that you are such a hard worker and a protector, and acknowledging those things and helping him feel like, yeah, she does respect and admire me because hard on themselves. They beat
Mhm.
themselves up. And so then if a wife is inadvertently overcritical or says something that can be really painful, man, a man will hold on to that and it hurts a
Mm.
lot.
Yeah, interesting.
But I also think one of the best things wives can do is try to be as specific as possible, like to the details, because a wife might say something, well, I want you to connect with me emotionally. I want you to be more present. And he has a different definition of that than she does.
Yeah.
So if she says, well, like you said to your husband, actually, when I'm upset and I'm venting, I want you to lean in. I want you to come closer. I want you to hold me.
Mhm.
Like, boom, now he knows what to do.
Yeah. So tactical. Give him tactical steps.
Yes. Yeah. Because, but a lot of wives think, well, men should just know that. I'm like, sorry, we don't.
Yeah, no.
We don't. We're kind of clueless.
Yeah.
And you might have like, well, I want you to do this, this, and this. Like the best thing Rachel did for me is she's like, no, I want you to say this and I want you to do that. I'm like, thank you. Now I know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to wing it. I was trying to come up with some other way to connect to you, but it wasn't showing up on your scoreboard.
Yeah. On your scoreboard. That's a good one. I remember when we were first married and I would come home and I had like gotten into extreme couponing to try to like stretch the budget, and do all this stuff. And I would come home and I'd bring home $250 of groceries that I'd spent $100 on. And so I felt like I was winning at life. And I'd come home and I'd show my husband all these things. And he was like, cool, so
Yeah.
unimpressed. And I was like, hold. Here's the right way to respond. And I would literally
Yes.
like give him a script and he was like, oh. And I was like, okay, try again. Try that. That would be perfect. And so he would like then be like, try some better phrases. And I wasn't trying to micromanage or treat him like a toddler, but I just realized he just didn't know like how I need him to respond in those moments. And so he learned I don't have to do that anymore. But in the beginning, I
Exactly.
remember being surprised that I had to kind of give him a script. I was like, wow, I
Yep.
didn't know this was part of it.
Oh, yes. In fact, one of the things this is so good because one of the things that comes up very often when I'm working with couples is the wife predominantly she wants certain words of affirmation, right?
Mhm.
She wants if she dresses up and looks nice, she wants him to acknowledge it and say it. If she's worked all day, cleaning up the house, taking care of the kids, doing homeschool or whatever, like she wants him to acknowledge that
Yeah.
and to see it and he validated it all. So helping him with the script even or certain words like telling him like I really love it when you say this or you do that. It's
Mhm.
giving him these tools that he can now work with.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, so back to the whole I've thought about this so many times, like how to say things in a way that won't make my husband get defensive. And I had a friend who I thought this was so genius. And tell me if you think this is a bad idea or a good idea. But she would tell her husband, she'd be like, she called her husband boyfriend as like a nickname. She'd be like, "Hey boyfriend, can you do this for me?" And so she was like when she would need to address things he was doing that were bothering her or hurting her or whatever, she would sit down with him as her boyfriend and talk to him about her husband. Even though it's the same guy. And so she'd be like, honey, I need to talk to you about my husband. Like he's doing this thing that's bothering me. Can you give me advice what I should do? Almost where she treated his failure, the part of him that was failing, if you will,
Mhm.
as a third party. So he didn't feel so close to it. And then she was still coming to him in the energy of, you're really my hero. Can you help me process the situation?
Yep.
Is it like a bad idea or is that a great idea?
No, I love it because what you're doing is you're kind of detaching yourself. It's like a little game to
Mhm,
detach yourself from it. So it's not real personal. Instead of this face-to-face conflict, it's more like we're sitting next to each other talking about, well, like you said earlier, it's the two of us working on this thing.
mhm.
Right? It's the two of us working on our marriage together
Yeah.
instead of me against you. And so whatever game, whatever framework, whatever you have to do to get to that dynamic of like, no, it's the two of us together working on the thing. And I think what you said right there was so powerful. It's like reaffirm to him, it's like, you're my hero. Like you're
Mhm,
my everything. You're my rock. Like this is amazing. And I love our marriage and I love us and I love you. And together let's keep striving for what Rachel and I call the absolutely extraordinary marriage.
mhm.
But like this is our target. This is our common goal together. So we can make these little adjustments, these little refinements
Yeah,
and treat it
so
like that instead of you suck at that. You're terrible.
yeah,
Oh, so
yeah.
destructive.
That's hard. And I sometimes I like to flip it, like, ladies, if your husband came at you, because I have people close to me, their husbands have done this, where the husband, she hadn't lost her baby weight. She was frustrated with her weight. She was overweight and struggling and self-conscious and all this. And he wouldn't take her out on dates. And then he would tell her she was disgusting. And he would describe things about her body that he thought were awful. And then
Oh, man.
she's like,
Oh,
I can't forget those words. She's like,
right.
it just echoes. And then he wants to be intimate. And I think, heck no. Like, I remember the things you said about my body, you know? And so I tell women, like, and I try to remind myself of it as well. It's kind of like the adverse, you know, the inverse of the same situation, right? For
Yeah.
men.
Yep. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And that's a perfect example because some of those painful words can't be taken back. And
Yeah,
and of all the words we hold on to, it'll be the ones that hurt the most.
that's true.
So then, like, if we just stop and think about it, and how would we want someone to respond to us, or how would we say it to somebody we respect or outside? Like, how are we going to have that conversation? We're going to be super tactful.
Yeah.
Like in our home, Rachel and I talk about this all the time. Like, be super diplomatic. What's the nicest way I can say this?
Hmm.
How can we still be open and honest and frank? But like I say it in such a nice way, it can't be painful.
Hmm.
'Cause
That's
then
good.
then it doesn't have those wounds and those words that she'll hold on to then, and that's the perfect example. She's like, "Oh, okay, we wanna have sex now," and like, "No, I remember what you said about me."
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Oh,
damaging.
now you gotta unpack all of that.
That takes a long time. And,
Yeah,
my husband uses this phrase that you build trust in drops, but you break trust in buckets.
yeah,
And it's true. Okay,
yeah.
so that brings up another question. We had the marriage conference this last weekend at our church, and the guest speaker was telling me, I was sharing about how in my childhood, my parents, when they had a conflict, they would step aside into the other room to have their conflict. I don't know how heated it ever got. My dad's pretty laid back, but my mom's pretty fiery. And so I don't know how hot it got, but I just remember we didn't have to watch them fight. But we did learn, my mom was really good at teaching us and giving us the tools to resolve conflict in a respectful,
Oh,
understanding
good.
way. Like, and the principle she used to always say is seek to understand and then to be understood, you know, so always lead with understanding. And so, but the guest speaker was like, you know, my parents fought in front of me, and I thought it was one of the best things they could have given me, because if they fight and resolve it, then it taught me how to resolve conflict.
Yep.
But then shortly after that, my husband and I got into a conflict, and my son was in the car with us. And I think because that had been said, my husband just kind of kept going into the conflict. And I was like, hey, let's talk about this later. And, but then my son, via text message, was trying to assert himself into our conflict to try to resolve
Into
it
it.
for us. Yeah.
He's like, I want a piece of this."
I know. He's like, let me help fix this. You guys are fight way too much, you know? And so I was like, okay, that didn't work very well. So what is the best way, especially if the way they see husbands treat wives, if that is something they take into their future, what is the best way? Because conflict is pretty much the number one determining factor whether a marriage is going to last or fail, pretty much, because
Yep.
conflict is a thing that destroys things if it's not done well. So, is it okay to fight in front of the kids? And if so, what's a healthy way to do that? Or should it never be done? What do you say to all that?
Yeah, I'm gonna hold up an ideal, knowing that it's an ideal. Like, so don't hold yourself to 100% standard here. It's an ideal. That as we work on it as a couple and you can get there, you can get to this point where you can disagree and you can have little bits of conflict without getting into a full-blown fight where
Right.
there's insulting and you're saying and doing things that you later regret. So if you can keep it chillaxed and you can disagree and do it even tactfully, I think if the kids are there and they can hear the dynamics and see it and watch you guys debate through it,
Mhm.
that's super healthy.
Right.
Because the goal is we want our kids to know how to resolve conflict.
Mhm.
If parents step away and then they come back out and they never address it, they never tell you what happened, nothing, they're like, the kids are like, man, what happens behind closed doors that
Yeah.
like what's going on in there? They have
Yeah.
no idea. And
Yeah.
they don't know if it was ever resolved or unresolved. And so you don't teach them. And so the kid grows up thinking, well, okay, all we have to do is go in the other room and then it takes care of itself. Like what happens? And so teaching them, right? Modeling, like I said before, it's all imitation, it's all modeling.
Mhm.
So if you can have a healthy debate and it's around something relevant and the kids uh, they see real things and hear real things,
Mhm.
that's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
great. But if it's ever ugly or if it's ever a topic that and they may not be ready for or emotionally ready for, yeah, definitely separate it and then come back and talk about it.
That's a good idea. I like that because it's true. Like they, especially in today's culture acts like to disagree with someone is to commit a hate crime.
Oh,
And it's
yes.
like, no, like let's get back to the reality that you can respectfully disagree with
Yep.
people. And that is the ideal. Okay, so let's talk about, since we're running out of time here, let's talk about what role does the Holy Spirit's leadership in your life and hearing God's voice and Him leading you through these conflicts or through this marriage maturity or through personal growth, what role does the Holy Spirit's voice and leadership play in your marriage or even in your own personal development?
Yeah, I love it. And the and your listeners know this, and you guys are you're just seeking to have the Spirit. Like you have to get to a place, like mind and body and emotions, where you can hear, right? Hear the whisperings of the Spirit.
Mhm.
And so doing that kind of inner work or getting stillness, I love stillness, right? Um, the whole there's two places in the Bible where it says this, be still.
Mhm.
Man, those two words just speak to my soul. So if I can get enough stillness, me personally, that
Yeah.
the Holy Spirit then can talk to me, I'm already in a really good spot.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know about you and others, like if I'm angry and my mind is raging or my emotions are super hot, it's almost impossible to feel or hear the promptings of the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
Right. So if I can again get in here and get the peace, get the stillness where there's the whisperings there, it's always going to lead me to do the right thing and say the right
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
And so, but like if I let pride in, if I let defensiveness in, if I let resentment in, if I let grudges,
Mhm.
I held grudges. Let me share this thing because it was so powerful for me.
Yeah.
I held on to my grudges. I held on to my bitterness because I somehow felt justified. Like all
Mhm.
those things that were wrong to me, I'm going to hold on to those. And one day somebody gave me a quote. It said, bitterness is a poison that you swallow, hoping your enemy will die.
Mhm.
And I remember when I was filled with bitterness and anger and a grudge, it was so hard to feel the Spirit.
True.
But when I made space for the Spirit, then it comes in. It's like, well, we'll do this thing and do that thing and remember this thing. It'll bring all things to your remembrance, right?
Yeah.
You're like, yes. Then I can show up with love and forgiveness and patience. I can be
Mm.
fully present with my wife.
Mm.
Get off my phone, right?
Yeah.
Phones are wrecking marriages
Mhm.
because we're not present. We're not paying attention. We're so distracted. We live in
Yeah.
this age of distraction. That's the other thing is keeping the spirit away.
Mm.
Constantly distracted or an unending stream of visual trash coming through screens.
Yeah.
And we can't feel the spirit guiding us to really engage and like deeply, truly love our wives to
Mm.
another level that maybe we haven't felt before.
That's so good. So are you it's interesting that you actually mentioned that about the distractions. We actually sat and talked with our kids just last night about the importance of not always having a screen going, not always staying so busy, but really getting into stillness, getting into boredom, getting into like
Yes.
when you're driving down the road, maybe don't turn on the radio. Maybe just sit in silence and see if the Lord starts speaking to you, because
Yeah.
he's not going to bulldoze his way in to giving us wisdom. And along those lines, though, of taking the time to listen to the Lord, I had some guests on my show who had invented the 40-day challenge, the Pray Stay challenge, and where couples, they challenged them 5 minutes a day to pray together for 40 days and see what happens to their marriage. And so maybe that's
Awesome.
even for those who are listening, that'd be a great place to start through what you're saying about getting still together and just making space for the Holy Spirit to speak to you. That might be a great way to do it. And maybe you're not at the place where you feel safe enough to pray with your spouse. Maybe you start
Right.
by doing it on your own. And then as you feel like you can pull your spouse into that process, maybe then you extend it to your spouse as well. Do you guys have a regular pray together process or anything?
Yes. Yep. We always pray together as a couple and as a family. Um, and even as you were just saying that, I thought even if you can't pray, at least be fully present with each other. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you can pray, great. But if not, like be engaged. So
Mm-hmm.
devices aside, all the media aside, all the distractions, and just sit with each other, be like fully engaged and start feeling the spirit, the guidance, the love, the reconnection. But
Mm-hmm.
most of us are just so disconnected. We've become roommates with rings.
Yeah.
We're in the same room, but we're not connected. And I think the Holy Spirit can guide us to this level of connection we've never felt before.
Yeah.
Like real true presence.
100%. I agree with you. Okay, last question. I know that you coach men, right? You work with men.
Mhm.
Do
Yep.
you guys as a couple coach couples, or is it just you that mostly does
Yes.
it?
Yep. So in fact, we just right before I got on this podcast, Rachel and I were coaching together.
Mm.
We coach a group of mostly moms in that one, and then I coach men as well. So yep, we're both coaching, and like our whole mission is just to help families and couples.
Amen. I love that. Okay, so then speak to maybe what would be 3 red flags that a couple needs to stop and check in and assess because their life maybe is not imparting success to their child's future? And what would be 3 green flags that they're on the right path and their children are going to walk away with some really valuable tools?
Yeah, love it. The red flags are where okay, so if there's lots of contention, lots of fighting, right?
Mhm.
If it just feels like a regular battle or constantly irritated. Here's my test. When I go speak in audiences, this is what I love to do. I just ask people, I'm like, what is the predominant emotion you feel most of the time? Just take
Mm.
a regular week. What are you feeling most of the time? And this has been fascinating. All of our audiences all over the place. The most common answer from parents is some form of irritation or frustration.
Mm.
Like the majority of the time, I feel irritated or frustrated.
Wow.
Wow, think about that. If you're just irritable and angry and upset all the time, big red flag,
Mm.
right? Because then you're not engaged. You're not happy. You're not loving
Yeah.
family life. You're not there. You're struggling. So if there's
Yeah.
fighting and those angers, I'd say the distraction's a huge one. If you're turning to screens addictions, I just had an amazing cognitive neuroscientist on my podcast
Mm.
talking about porn addiction. She said, "This is crazy, and I want to share it here because it's such a big problem." It's between the ages of 8 and 88. 90% of men and boys between 8 and 88 are consuming pornography.
Wow.
It is an astronomical problem. It's
Mhm.
so big.
Mm.
So those kind of addictions, another big red flag,
Yeah.
right? And then if I'll say the last one, the red one is like if your kids aren't seeing affection, they're not
Mm.
seeing kindness, compliments, love, presence. If they're just watching you and it's just like they're watching two roommates or two people just doing life, they our kids should see us be affectionate, being kind, complimenting, loving, holding hands, sitting next to each other. They should see on this one, I get adamant about this one. 100%. They should see you going on dates.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll share this. And again, this is a big idea. Some people hearing this would think, "Whoa, that's crazy." But we're to a point now, our kids are old enough. We do a full on honeymoon trip every year,
Oh,
like
that's
10 to
awesome.
14 days, epic place, big honeymoon trip. There's two of us.
Yeah.
And we do regular overnighters. So every quarter, we're going on an overnighter. And then every week, we're going on a date.
Wow.
So your kids ought to see you dating. I guess that's one of the green flags.
Yeah.
They ought to see you dating, see you taking trips, see you that you're still in love,
Mhm.
and you're like you're pursuing. I guess the pursuit. I love that word. That men are pursuing their wives still,
That's
right?
good.
Oh, so
That's so
good.
good. That's so good. So with the red flags, like when red flags are seen, what I find is that women usually end up carrying the responsibility of trying to
Mhm.
fix the red flags. And that's hard if the responsibility of that red flag is the husband, or
Yep.
as a woman, I want my husband to lead and I want him to say,
Yep.
"Hey, our marriage isn't healthy in this area. I'm going to I'm going to lead us into a better place." Like I want to see him do that, but a lot of women end up carrying the leadership of getting their marriage
Yep.
healthier. So what would you even say to that?
That's one of the most challenging dynamics, and what I see every single day, as you can imagine.
Mhm.
Wives, I guess women are wired like that. So that's why I love and honor women so much. They literally are constantly working and looking for ways to be better.
Mhm.
It's so awesome. They want improvement for their kids, for their marriage, for their house. They're just looking every day for things to be better. And guys are like, da, 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 going to my
That's
job,
great.
doing my thing. Let's watch the sport. Like everything's fantastic. And it's just this, again, a miss between men and women. And so what you said is absolutely spot on. Men should be leading
Mhm.
from the front 100%.
Mm.
But very often the reality is it's the wives that bring the awareness to him
Mhm.
that things need to get better.
Yeah.
I wish it weren't that case. I wish men were looking around and be like, I got this, I'm leading out. But what I see the vast majority of the time, the wife says, hey, we need to work on this, we need to do better. And the man's like, okay, fine. But then when he catches fire, he's like, oh, I got this.
Yeah.
I will lead. I'm gonna lead our family, I'm gonna lead our marriage. I will lead this out and make the improvements.
Yeah. And let me share even like a little testimony of how far like my husband has grown in this space because I remember there was a time just a handful of years ago that our marriage was so broken. I was literally, here's my last request, and if he denies it, I'm divorcing. Like that's what, and we're pastors in ministry, and I had gone to him, and I was so scared of my husband. I felt unsafe with my husband, and I remember going to him and saying, can we just read this book, hoping that maybe this book would be the magic key to suddenly give me the safe marriage I was hoping for. And I remember my husband's response. He said something else to put on the calendar. And I remember when he said that, I was like, that's it. I'm done begging to be loved. I'm out of here.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm going to divorce him when I come back from vacation. And whereas recently, and we ended up working with a couple that like went deep with us a couple of times, really
Yes.
deep intensives, and really started digging to like roots. And my husband got some healing, and I got some healing. I started learning how to have boundaries
Yes.
and all these different things.
Yes.
And now it's to the point where my husband is like, "Hey, I found this book. I know we need to work on
Yeah.
this, so I found this book. Let's start working on this together." And I'm like, and I love that man, the number one thing that he's challenged my husband in, and it's amazing how it has such a total spillover effect, is he's challenged him in stepping up and being the first one to initiate the solutions and it
Yes.
not being on my shoulders. And I
Yes.
didn't
100%.
realize, like, it makes me respect my husband more when I see him taking the initiative like that. And when I
Yeah.
see him, because it tells me I love you enough to work on
Mhm.
this, And
Exactly.
so for those men that are listening, your wife respects you more when you take the leadership.
Yes, take the lead. And for the women that are listening saying, I wish my husband would do that, just that gentle, tactful guidance. So we have this couple, we've been working with them for a couple years now. They're amazing. But well, I mean, actually, we have lots of stories like this where the wives start listening to our podcast or come across our videos and they're like, hey, babe, you should watch this. And he's like, okay, well, drive him along. But then he catches fire. And this is a perfect example. It's like this transformation you just shared. He is leading his entire family, the total transformation. And
Mhm.
of course, his wife loves and respects him more. And you said it so well. Wives Wives need to feel like and be reassured that she is the most important person and the most important thing in his life.
Yeah.
She has to be. And if he dismisses those things like, "Oh, no big deal, whatever," it makes her feel like, "Oh, I'm not even important enough." for you to make me a priority and make our family a priority,
Right.
and she doesn't feel safe. I've been talking about this a lot recently, is the safety. Is women want to feel safe, not just physically safe from like harm or evil,
Mhm.
like she needs to feel mentally safe and
Yeah.
emotionally safe and socially safe and financially safe. Like, she's longing for this safety and this protection, and the man can do that. And I wish I could say, we could just call out and say, "Hey, men, step up, lead out," and they would do it. But very often, it takes a good woman
Mhm.
bringing that to his attention, and then he's like, "Oh, okay, I get it now. Sorry,
Mhm.
I got this." And he
Yeah.
starts leading.
100%. And I feel like I've recognized, especially having 4 boys, and then sometimes it's easier to see it with my boys and then go, "Oh, I need to apply this in my marriage." And I don't know why, but it's easier to see it in my kids. But recognizing that when I gripe and criticize, I don't get a better result from
Exactly.
them. They
Yep,
just pull away, and then they get kind of cynical back. But
yep.
if I spend a lot of energy calling out their wins and honoring their wins and using words like, "I respect that about you. I honor that about you," words like that, then I get a whole lot more of the things that I'm praising. And so realizing that in my marriage, like, I'm learning to intentionally train myself to tell my husband, "Hey, I appreciate that you're
Yeah.
making the effort to find books. And I appreciate that you're taking the time to do this because that just shows how much inner work you've been doing and how far we have come together." And so, anyways,
And
okay, so go ahead.
because of the weight of your words, like
Mhm.
like you nailed that. Because of the like I was talking about before, because of the weight of a wife's words,
Mm.
to her husband, when you say something, that a compliment or praise or admiration in the way he likes that,
Mhm.
it hits so hard, and man, he will lean into that. Like
Yeah.
that'll be his mission if you say that the right word, and pay attention to what word he likes. He might be like, say, "Hey, I appreciate that," or "I admire that," or you might say, "That's really manly," or "That's really
Mm.
attractive." Like, notice how he responds. He's like,
Mhm.
"Oh." If manly, if he's like, "Oh, she thinks I'm manly," he's gonna do that all the time, and you're like, "Oh, okay, that's the word I'm gonna use." It's like, "Babe, it's so manly, it's so attractive when you're reading, when you're leading our family, when you're trying to create change. I love that." He's gonna go for it because he wants to win your respect.
That's so good. Okay, so why don't you tell my listeners how can they connect with you? That we've heard some stories of like couples that you've worked with and people that you're coaching with, and some of my listeners may want to work with you. How can they work with you? And then you also have a couple of resources for those that want to go just download them from your website, free resources. Go ahead and share about that as well.
Yeah, love it. So, like I said earlier, like Rachel and I and our family, like our mission is just to support families. We crazy love families. It's so awesome. That's what we're doing. So, she and I co-host a podcast, so listeners can listen to that. It's the Extraordinary Family Life Podcast, and our website is extraordinaryfamilylife.com. Then for men specifically, mine is formidablefamilyman.com. But you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook. We're on there. And then I want to share we had lots of couples come through, and this is specifically, for family dynamics. We
Mm.
had a lot of couples come through and they were just like, just tell me what you guys do. Like, what do you do on a weekly basis? What do you do on a daily basis? Like, give me the list. What's the list of things that just work over time? And so we sat down and we're like, okay, what have we been doing here for years? We've got so dialed in. Some of it's so automatic, we kind of forget we do it.
Hmm.
And so we sat down and we just created this checklist.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's just a checklist that you don't have to be perfect, but it's just this framework of like, do these things. And what I call is like this non-negotiable list of like, do this and you cannot lose, right? It's awesome. So the checklist is available. It's totally free,
Hmm.
and we share that. And then we also went through and created um, how to raise well-adjusted kids. So our oldest is 22, almost 23 now. Our
Wow.
youngest is 8. We've raised them, all over the world, and they are just amazing kiddos, just really thriving and succeeding and super happy. And so we put that framework, the
Mhm.
formula in place. And so we want to share that with as many people as possible, and both of those are free.
That's so good. That sounds so awesome. Well, I'm sad that our time is up already. And I'm so appreciative for the time that you took to come share with my listeners. And you guys, make sure you go and connect with Greg and his wife, Rachel, online, even if you're just listening to the podcast and implementing the things taught there. I know, as you can see from today's episode, it's going to be a wealth of wisdom and super valuable for you guys to go check out and then pursue them. If your marriage, or even maybe you're going through, maybe you want to prepare for marriage. Maybe you know you had a hard childhood and you're like, I want to go in with the right tools. Go connect to Greg. And if you have a marriage and you guys are like, we didn't get the right tools and we desperately need them, go connect with Greg. Go check them out online. I'll put all those links in the show notes. And otherwise, you guys, make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss any other upcoming episodes with incredible guests like this. Greg, thanks so much for coming. It was so awesome to have you. All right, you guys have a good week. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's show. Listen, let's stay connected. Come follow me on Instagram at Java with Jen, where you can follow the latest and say hey. It's a really great way to stay in touch. Many of you have also asked how you can support the show. You can make donations through the Anchor app or on Patreon, or of course by sharing, rating, and reviewing on social media and iTunes as well. Your heartfelt feedback always reminds me why I do this. Also, don't miss our merch store, where you can get super cool Java with Jen swag and coffee. Find it at javawithjenmerch.com. Until next time, remember, hearing God's voice is simple, and He wants to be a part of your everyday life. See you next week.